I'm Brandon Amoroso, and this is the D2Z podcast, building and growing your business from a Gen Z perspective. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to D2Z, a podcast about using the Gen Z mindset to grow your business. I'm Gen Z entrepreneur Brandon Amoroso, founder and president of Retention as a Service agency, Electric. And today I'm actually joined by Aaron Roper, Director of Agency Partnerships at Rebuy, who has worked with Electric for at least over 2 years now, all the way back at Recharge and now in your new role at Rebuy. So super excited to have you on the show today and talk shop.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. As you said, I used to be at Recharge too. So I've been at Rebuy here for about a year and a half now. Before that, I was at Recharge for 2 years. And prior to that, I was in the agency world for about 4 years as a project manager, as a product manager, working in e-commerce, custom app development, various things. So thrilled to be able to chat with you today.
Awesome. Well, before we dive into things here, can you give everybody just a quick sort of background on you?
Yeah. So my background is I started out in my career in marketing. I actually, when I was in school, was very much into e-commerce and kind of technology, what was new in the market. I had an internship actually for a global brand for soccer jerseys, rugby jerseys, things like that called worldsoccershop.com. And that's where I kind of cut my teeth on e-commerce. And I got out of school and wound up getting a job working in e-commerce as a marketing director for a little while. And I bounced around a little bit after that, trying to figure out what exactly I wanted to do, but eventually made my way back into like consulting. And that's where in the agency space, I got really deep into Shopify. And I've been working with Shopify, off and on since 2012. And the exposure I've had to this ecosystem, to the partners, has been amazing. So, it's been a wild ride.
That's a long time. I first discovered Shopify in like 2018, and it's cool to get to talk to people who were working on the platform back when it wasn't all that it is right now. Like I think I take it for granted a little bit some of the features and functionality and ease of use. And then talking to people from like 2013, 2014, it was not that case at all.
No, it used to be a different world. What's funny is when I come across in my role as an agency partner manager. So, my role is to work with people like you who run agencies around the world. And I see some of the same names. They're doing the same work and still crushing it, 8 years after the last time I spoke with them. And it's like, wow, like you're amazing. Like people in Australia who created really cool ways for doing retargeting capture on Shopify to get around some things that were a limitation back in 2015, 2016 that are still crushing it, right? And it's just funny how the ecosystem kind of evolves over time, for sure.
And I feel like the ecosystem has also eaten itself a little bit, especially on the agency side. Some of the tried and true agencies of 2016 are now big sort of conglomerates as they've been rolled up into other like really strong agencies. And then you get companies like The Stable and whatnot. Power Digital. There's a lot of examples of merging a bunch of really strong 40 to 50 person teams. And then all of a sudden you got like a 500 person agency. So,
yeah. I mean, everything kind of ratchets up to, bigger problems. They always say more money, more problems, right? So I think that those agencies you mentioned and others that we could think of, they all have a ton going for them in terms of like fit in the market and their like kind of niche that they're in. And they're all friends, right? That's the real cool thing about it. Like, yes, it's kind of tough now in certain ways for certain agencies to find their own path, but in reality, there's enough out there for everybody to eat. It's a big enough table. And that's one of the things that like we try to build into the program at Rebuy. I mean, just by nature, the product of Rebuy, right? And so that like trickles down into the way we interact with our agencies, way we interact with different tech partners like Klaviyo and Recharge and Attentive and you name it out there, right? All of those guys, they have so much to offer, and there's so much value that everybody can just pick a little piece here and there and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, and there's no shortage of that for sure. And some of the best friends I have in the ecosystem or people who I'd go to for advice, there are other agencies who do something similar, or they're another Shopify Plus partner, but they might have a different way that they approach things, or they might have different verticals that they work with, or whatever it may be. I think that overall just sentiment provides a better ecosystem as a whole. And it's kind of fun to win a deal out of your buddy's hands. So.
Oh yeah. Just buy him a drink next time, you know? So.
Exactly. But what has it been like? Because you obviously joined Rebuy when the partner program was more so in its infancy, and you've been hiring and scaling out that team, which I think was like a next step for you, because at Recharge that wasn't under your purview per se. What has it been like doing it yourself, and what have been the most successful things? What have been the things you tried that you thought might work very well but ended up not working well? What has that all been like?
Yeah, it's been interesting. So, hats off to James and John, our co-founders. They built a really cool like foundation for the program, and honestly, they built a product that's easy to sell. I say that a lot because it's like it's you can understand it, like folks on the agency side, regardless of what services you provide or like your background or technical depth, you can like think about how Rebuy actually could build value for your clients like real easily. And so what's been really cool has been being able to like build momentum with people who have an affinity towards a product that they're highly opinionated about the usage of. So like people come in and they tell me all the time, here's how I use it, but I want to learn more. And one of the things I thought was going to be really, really important when we started I guess our latest iteration of the program back early last year was, hey, we got to get folks in doing Rebuy the right way. And what we found is that there is no real right way. It's just about how you experiment, iterate over time, and everybody is learning and growing with us. And so like we grew from basically no one running partnerships and then just kind of being something under the, umbrella of operations when I came in, to now we have a team of, I think, 10 or 11 people on all of partnerships. That includes platform with Shopify and with tech. And we all work really closely with each other and like the entire Rebuy organization. And the Rebuy organization's gone from 20 people when I joined or thereabouts to over 100 now. And it's been a massive ride, and I think there's some things, you've seen this, Brandon. I mean, like some of the things that we've tried to do that, they made an impact. We learned from it. We moved on, right? Like you were involved late last year with us being able to do launch packages, sending referrals out to agencies, right? Like we found some of our top agencies and we said, hey, we have a crush of merchants trying to get on to Rebuy over the holidays. We want to get them stood up before the holiday, period gets going in earnest. Can you help with those? And we just started shoveling them your way and to, Jonathan Snow's team and some other people out there. And we're just like, hey, can you help us out? Because we knew that we had a capacity problem. We do a little bit of implementation within Rebuy, but it was like, we need your help. And that's something we learned a ton about our product, about our agencies, about our approaches to the various things with the implementations, it's huge. It's just a big opportunity. It's something we tried late last year.
Yeah. I think it's sort of a dual-sided relationship. It requires you to be game for trying new things that you haven't done before, but then also for the agencies to be like, yeah, sure, like let's give it a shot, even though it doesn't fall within like the well-defined way that we typically work and operate with a merchant.
Yeah, for sure.
So what are some of the other exciting things that you're looking forward to this year that you got up your sleeve for the Rebuy Partner Program?
Yeah, so this is one of those things where you asked about what we wanted to do or whatever last year, and how did it work out? So when I came in, we did. I would be real transparent, probably overly transparent here. When I came in, I was like, "Ooh, so I want to get in like a certification program. I want to teach everybody about Rebuy, right?" And I got so excited about that before we actually had a clue how to do it, before I even knew how Rebuy as a company worked. I said, hey, let's do a partner town hall. And if anybody's paying attention as a Rebuy partner out there listening to the recording, we've never done a second one of those. So one of the things that we announced on that was, this year we're going to do a certification program. We're doing an academy or something like that. And the realities of it are, there's just so much to do to get something like that stood up. And there's so many competing priorities. But that's something that I'm really going to be pushing hard on this winter in particular. I have a big heart for, people who get into the trenches and try to figure out how to do Rebuy with just help docs and like random Slack messages. I want to do better for them. And, it's all going to be about the ability to prove value. Like, Brandon, I told you about this when we were on a walk in San Diego, maybe 2 years ago, something related to, I don't even know, it could have been with Recharge at the time, I guess. I was like, I believe that if you're going to do a certification program, it needs to be outcome based. Not only like, what do you know, but can you prove it? Prove it to me, build it into a site, build it for a merchant, build it for a client, execute, and then like drive some results with that. It's huge. Just if you can do that, then I'll shovel some leads your way when I get behind, like those are the types of things that like I want to be able to do more of. And like, those are the types of things that make the table bigger for everybody else and make the pie bigger for everybody else too. So we're investing in that, but it's stepwise, one step after another, eyes wide open to the, problem with building something and, just executing it right now.
Yeah. I think that's always been my biggest pet peeve with traditional certification programs is it's just like anybody can get it or anybody can pay for it. And you don't actually have ever had to have used the product in the wild. You just had to have taken some quiz that was built. And it's like, this is somehow supposed to mean that you're an expert in said tool. Whereas on my end, like, I don't want to do the certification programs. I just want to use the tool. And so I feel like there's maybe a happy medium there.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
But doing something like that requires a lot more thought and nuance than just spinning up your standard, like regular certification program as well.
Yeah. There was a period where I was like, let's get an LMS, learning management system, through like a partner stack or something silly like that. And I was like, no, we don't need it. We'll figure it out ourselves eventually. And I think that, that's at its, goods and its bads for us, but we're doing fine over here. And I think we've got a good plan going forward. I'm going to act like the interviewer for a second and change the subject. So you posted something on LinkedIn today that I was like, let's maybe talk about this. You want to chat about that?
Yeah. That was my Friday post, right?
Yeah, those are your Friday posts. Sorry, LinkedIn's algorithm messes with me. I just like scroll through and then I think it's like immediate, but it was something 5 days ago.
Yeah. So let me pull up that post here because you commented on it, so I got it top of mind and inbox here. It was about how there aren't like we have a lot of clients who have like 50 apps, and every app touts this like 1000x ROI in 30 days, and the attribution windows that are used are ridiculous, like a 7-day view, 30-day click. Obviously, your app is going to produce tremendous results if you are looking at every single customer who comes to the website as your attributed revenue. And there's just, I feel like a lot of merchants have been dissatisfied with certain tools or solutions because they try to do too much at once, or they go into an app expecting that it's just going to like run itself and not thinking through how to actually integrate it into the customer journey. And I used in that example Rebuy. There's like 6 different places at a minimum that you could plug it into the customer experience. But if you don't, then like obviously it's not going to work. So that was my Friday rant. That
Yeah.
luckily the LinkedIn algorithm gave to you on Wednesday of the following week.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, to your point, right? Like we were talking, you mentioned like if you're not doing rebuy right, plus you have these other kind of downstream things of how attributions tracks, like your results are just going to be odd and wonky, and like you're going to be frustrated, right? And you said like 5 or 6 ways that you can be involved in the website. Like we counted it out. I think John posted the other day in Slack. He was like, John's our CEO, co-founder. He said, hey, look, here's our 19 products. And we're like, wow, like there's
19? I
19
didn't know there was
products.
19.
Yeah, don't make me start quoting them right now. But basically, it's like, what could you do? And then for each of those, are you doing it the right way? And then, a point. So I've spoken a little bit about that already, but to a point about the attribution window, I think it's huge, which is like, I can't speak for every app out there. And there's a lot of different
Yep.
apps out there that do many things that have nothing to do with what Rebuy does. But the MarTech space is really interesting because if you can drive to someone actually interacted with your solution and you have a limited window for that attribution, then you have such higher authority, in my opinion, so much higher authority to say, hey, here's what we can do for you if you do X, Y, and Z things, right? And
Yep.
so for Rebuy, the attribution window is 48 hours. The attribution window is not based on someone viewing something, it's based on someone actually clicking through on a widget, either adding to cart or clicking through to discover products, right? And so a lot of what we do is, hey, put the right products in front of the right people at the right time with the right offer to get them to convert with an additional product or products, right? And we do that really well. And we
Yep.
work with agencies like you to do that really well with a lot of merchants out there. So it's like I could go on and on about this stuff, but like I was like, okay, I'm gonna use this time to be able to say, hey, like here's what we do and why we do it, and see how that plays with something else you're seeing in the market.
Yeah, I think it's really important for us when we're recommending tools to a merchant to be able to like very clearly define ROI in a way that is fair to all parties. And one of the things that this made me think of is your transition in pricing, because originally I think your top tier was like $1,000 a month, and like that was it. There There's nothing beyond that, but you were basing it entirely off of just store GMV, correct? Like just all revenue?
Yeah. So the pricing up until basically September of last year was capped at like $9.49. I'm probably not supposed to talk about that too much, but yeah, we had it priced at $9.49, and it was like based on just how big were you? And I pushed. This is one of the things that I pushed on the team, and our team as a whole pushed throughout 22 was, hey, to really serve our customers well, we need to align our incentives to theirs. So if someone is coming in with a big shop, we don't want to just charge them out the nose because they're a big shop. Let's still cap that. But if we're doing exorbitant amounts of creating exorbitant amounts of value because we have such a tight window, because we make it towards the click, well, let's figure out how we build with that. So we built in a variable pricing model that scales up, and it's worked out extremely well for us. It's worked out really well for the brands on us. And we've grown tremendously through it. I think that those types of models are what you have to do to build a like legitimate, like long-term business in this space. I think at a certain point, like no matter how much you white knuckle a flat rate or fixed tiers or something like that, you're eventually going to have to let go and say, okay, I'm going to have to take a little pay for performance situation here, because otherwise you don't have the right skin in the game. Like you'll accept mediocrity. And honestly, our pricing does for us is it allows us to align literally every part of our business to the success of our merchants. Like literally one of the things we have within our Slack organization is someone installs Rebuy. How long does it take to get their first sale that was Rebuy attributed? Of an item, right? Just a line item, right? And like you're watching it and you're like, how fast can they do it? I think the fastest is like 2 hours or something like that. It's like, I don't know. Those guys were like real quick on it, right? And I mean, it's probably faster than that, honestly. But like when you see someone just finally get across the line, woo, got them across the line. They're going. Okay, now how can we partner with them to help them grow? And so we've aligned our merchant success teams to that, our support team to that, our sales team to that, partners team. We're all aligned to someone getting the most value out of Rebuy. Literally, that's what we talk about before anything else. Like we look at like part of our like evaluation of success of the business. It's literally like, here's our top accounts. Whose of these top accounts are like performing lower than they should be? And how are we going to fix that for them? And it's literally just like improving for them. And we engage with our partners and others to make that happen for them. So I don't know, it just gets me really excited because this is a cool way to do business, in my opinion. It's very partner oriented.
I was talking to Cameron this morning about some of the new products you all have coming. And I think one of the coolest parts is that, while still not officially determined yet, but like the new products for you are pretty easy to just roll out and not have to like charge an add-on price or something. Because like the way I think about it is, if I'm a merchant and I'm using Rebuy, I almost can dictate my own pricing based off of how many products I'm using. It's like, yeah, obviously if I'm using 12 different products of Rebuys on my website, like it's going to be a higher bill than if it's a lower amount. But then that allows you to just like keep rolling out new features and products and just have one pricing model that fits for everything. And you just become more and more of a integral component to the ROI of whatever that website is.
Yeah. And the products you're talking about with Cameron, so Cameron, for everybody else, is our director of AI and machine learning. So he's involved with search and some other ambitious projects we have underway. And yeah, I mean, we want to figure out how we can, enable more with someone. But we've definitely had people say, well, if I turn that on, then I want to pay you more for it. And it's like one of those strange things where you're like, you get into the psyche of someone where you're like, but that means that you just made more money, right? Like,
Right.
you're not just because you turned it on, like, because it's making you more money, like we take a little percentage of that. Like, so that's an interesting thing that people do, but they do that. And combating that's an interesting way that that everybody kind of teams up together to go, okay, well, let's talk about this for real.
Yeah, I think have you run into though like merchants who are, I'm just going to build this myself because I don't want to have to pay you the percentage of revenue, because like obviously there's some things that your like recommendations algorithm and the AI, like that's powering an increased return versus just like having it like the slide out cart, for example. You could technically do the slide out cart by yourself if you wanted to develop it. Sure, you can't like A/B test it, and there's a lot of really strong like value props to the Rebuy smart cart. But do you run into that where some merchants are like, we're just going to build this ourselves because we don't want to have to pay a solutions provider for it?
Yeah. I mean, we've had that happen at Rebuy. I saw that happening at Recharge. I saw that happening in the agency space when someone would come to us and say, hey, we've been paying for this for a while. Can we like switch? I mean, all the people right now looking at, switching from Salesforce Commerce Cloud over to Shopify, right? Like, these mega migrations, it's kind of coming in droves from what I'm hearing. Like that, it's always about paying less in some way, either by renting a cheaper solution or owning a solution. And the thing that we come up against with the brands that come to us eventually at a certain size or complexity or whatever, they say, hey, well, why don't we just do this ourselves? Because we're only using X, Y, and Z. What we combat with, what the Recharges of the world combat with, and Shopify's of the world or whatever do, is the ability to create value rapidly through integrating new things without the use of an expensive dev resource that you have to depend on for just turning on a thing. And that's the thing that Rebuy really gets like to the other side of for a bunch of brands, especially at the upper ends, as we're finding out, is like, okay, yeah, sure, like go build this thing. But what is going to wind up happening for you is your like maturation of as a company, as a product, as a, I don't know, development tech focused e-commerce brand, you're going to slow down because you now can't focus on things that are uniquely uniquely suited to you. Let SaaS providers come in and solve problems for you, but be very vocal about where the gaps are and force the SaaS providers to make their products better. Because not only will it serve you better, but it'll help them to serve more customers. And the more customers that a SaaS product has using the products that you're also using, the more that feedback grows, the faster the innovation happens, and the more you're going to benefit from it. But if you take your site, go home, well, you don't get to take part in all that innovation for a little microtransaction fee, So
I didn't even think about that. All the costs going into maintaining your own thing and then not being able to just like the ease of use for me is the biggest thing. Being able to quickly iterate and test and not being roadblocked by dev resources. And then also getting to see new and cool like beta features and you all have access to far more merchants and data than any single merchant could ever have. So you're the ones that are going to be able to provide that insight and help push the product where it needs to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the impact of like the MSMs, for example, like, I think about various people on that MSM team that we have. And there's a particular MSM. Her name is Suki, who I'm hearing Suki all over. She might, I don't know. She might not like me mentioning her on here, but I'm going to say it anyway. She is getting really good call outs from merchants, from agencies, from our tech partners, because based on her experience, long experience within Shopify, within the ecosystem, bringing value daily, that like, well, so you're going to bypass that because you like decided you're going to build something yourself. Like you're missing out on all of the like extraordinary hiring that companies like Rebuy and, Klaviyo or Malomo, or whoever might be, doing. I mean, that's the cool network effect of all of this. It's not just network effect of product, but people, resources. Yeah. Like, oh, wow, I get to work with Rebuy because then I get to work with people like, Matt Camphor on the MSM team, Aaron Dunca, who leads the MSM team. All these people are super smart who are able to say, look, here's what I know. Let me show you. This is what you should think about. And it's like, wow, I never would have thought about that. Right. So I think those are the huge things that people like need to think about.
Yeah. There's a huge value prop to that. And like we benefit as well from getting to work with people like that, and then get to feed those insights into the agency. But I think the product consolidation in the ecosystem is happening at the right time, because some of our merchants' tech stacks, like costs, were getting out of control when you've got a single point solution for every little thing that happens on your website. You can find yourself looking at tens of thousands of dollars in monthly costs to every Joe Schmo who's got a Shopify app that they've spun up, which is just not sustainable long term.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that.
Which is why I like Rebuy a lot, because it cuts out like the need for 4 other apps that we used to use as well.
Or 19 other apps.
Or 19. I want to see that list, because
I'll send it to you.
That's fascinating, because now I feel like we're not using Rebuy to its fullest extent.
Yeah. Well, I'll work with you on that. Okay.
Perfect. Last question for you. And I don't know if you have any questions for me. You want to spin the tables here, but the one thing I've been thinking about is, how do you think about the agency partner program, referred versus like managed? And that was always our biggest hurdle to becoming a Shopify Plus partner. Since we started in 2019, we sort of missed that 2013 to 2018 heyday of migrations over to the platform. And really all that they looked at was net new Shopify Plus business in terms of like the who's who of should be a partner. And so you had people from 2013 or 2014 who were Shopify Plus certified partners who might as well not even have been in business anymore in 2020, versus us who are actively servicing 45 plus Shopify Plus clients, but we're not Plus certified. So that's always my biggest pet peeve of partner programs. And sometimes it's worked in our favor, actually, because if it's all about referred and we get in on a new tool earlier than later, then we look like the best agency out there. Like for Malomo, for example, like we do a lot of referred and managed, so it doesn't really matter. But then we've got other tools, and we're starting to run into this problem with Klaviyo, where everybody's already on Klaviyo. So where the hell are we supposed to find new merchants to refer to you if every brand we start working with is already using your solution? So I guess that could be another rant of mine. Maybe I'll post that on the next Friday. But how do you think about looking at your agency partners in that lens, refer versus manage?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that's evolving like rapidly, both rapidly and kind of slowly, let's be honest. But the way I see it is management is key. Management's key. Mm-hmm. Like you're the one that is helping to drive the innovation, right? it's you have like the rules of the programs, right? Like, oh, okay, so who referred the business, who used their affiliate link, or who told us about it first, or got the intro or whatever, and you abide by those things. And you celebrate those things, right? But you come across every now and then where you're like, so someone brought you into the door, but who's actually showing you around and making sure that you feel at home and are set up for success? That's someone else. And we've had that happen where with some big brands and agencies that you and I are friends with, where someone else got the brand to the door, but then the agencies we know, they're the ones that actually shepherd them into success. And that, I think, is where the management side has so much value. So, and that takes a human touch. It's not just like the numbers. Like if I go look at our Salesforce or I look at our database of partners and all of that, then I'll see a certain like narrative. And anybody that doesn't have context on our program, even within Rebuy or out, would say, oh, so X, Y, and Z, like that's obviously who's driving the most value for you. And I'm like, well, let's talk about this. Let's talk about it for real, because it's who's actually working with these brands on a daily basis. And I agree with you completely. I think that you really do need to have that model of the management side. I think that, I mean, for my lack of understanding exactly everything they do, how Klaviyo looks at expansion into new products is a cool way of doing things. So if you're on email and you potentially are moving into SMS with them, like that's a value add. And they're measured on it and they care about it and all of that. Cool. Let's do more of that then. So I think that that'll be something that we'll look at incorporating for ourselves when we have like search and other stuff too, is like, are you doing those things? Give everybody a piece of the referral pie. But I think the management side, like I was saying earlier, like we straight up care so much about the merchant's growth with us. And that requires management. And there's so much nuance to it. I can go on forever. I won't rant at you more, but I agree with you. And we're thinking about it. And I am sure the leadership of my company, which is I was a little bit more rigorous at benefiting the referrer versus the manager from time to time.
Yeah. No, I mean, you need both.
You got to have both.
Yeah. I think it would be now, once I get that list of 19 products and go through and see each client who's using only 4, who's using 12, who's using 10.
Yeah.
That in and of itself could probably be more valuable than just bringing in a bunch of like net new referred. Because if you can take your existing merchants and double the revenue that you're making out of them, that's way easier to do than having to go like find and onboard 10 new ones.
Totally. Yeah. You get it. You understand.
I have passed the Aaron Roper certification course of partnerships in the 38 minutes we've had here.
Yeah.
You should do an e-course.
We did one recently with you, right? A little webinar with you.
Yeah, that was fun. I just did one with Malomo as well. I have like these guides, one for Rebuy, one for Malomo. I did a full attentive SMS marketing course, which was that was a lot. I don't know if I'll ever do something like that again. But I like doing that stuff. It's fun. And then also it's like evergreen content that can get shared. And I recently uncovered that I need to start doing YouTube videos again, because they get used by account executives at Shopify or Klaviyo or Recharge or whatever in their sales process. And like some of them are from 2020 or 2021. And I'm like sitting in my sweatpants on the couch in San Diego. And we could use a little bit of an upscaling of the content quality potentially. But
yeah. Well, that's awesome. That's a good place to be, man. I love that for you. Yeah, you asked if I had any questions for you. I don't know if we're running out of time, but I will say this. What's the, I don't know, if there was one thing that I should be aware of based on like your experience talking to all your various guests on this podcast, like what would you bring up that you want to make sure that I know that you want to reiterate? Teaching people is about repeating stuff, right? So it's a chance to repeat something you've been teaching.
I think the thing for me is that a lot of the low hanging fruit for Shopify is already on Shopify. They're already on the Rebuys, the Gorgeous of the world. Like there's only so many coffee companies and skincare companies that there can be. And so there's a lot of movement and traction in more legacy industries. Alcohol obviously being one of them, but then we have other ones that we run into, like we going through this RFP process with a jewelry company who they're like, apparently the whole jewelry industry is just being held up by super antiquated legacy tech. Same with like, we are bringing over some like 10 million a year fertilizer company that has like 2 employees that was on WooCommerce. So I think from agencies that I've been talking to, from other tech partners, it's like, how do we take a vertical approach to growth in areas that maybe weren't as sexy or as easy to tackle in 2018, 2019, but they're being completely underserved by the existing tools and technologies in their market. And it's typically the markets where you have solutions that are like an SMS marketing platform just for alcohol, or an e-commerce platform just for jewelry, or something just for this particular vertical. Like that whole concept is fundamentally flawed, in my opinion, and we're seeing it get proven out as being flawed because you have a very like defined TAM. And I'll just keep using alcohol as an example because that's the one I'm closest to. But there's only 13,000 wineries in the US. If you are an e-commerce platform only for wineries, well, great. You have 13,000 potential clients. That's it. Like, you can never go beyond that. And so you're capping yourself at a certain level of innovation. You're capping yourself in so many different ways, whereas Shopify service any e-commerce business. And so building into that platform what these particular verticals need to get up and running is the way to go about it. Like, that's like when we talk to Recharge about subscriptions, it's like, how do we modify the product a bit to be able to service alcohol or to be able to service the specific needs of like a jewelry business or whatever it may be, because these verticals are coming off of those platforms that were built just for them, because they want to use the same tech that like everybody else gets to use. They want to benefit from the innovation that is behind 4,000 engineers versus 10. And the network effects of Shopify continue to just get stronger and stronger when it comes to their shop products like Shop Pay, the Shop app, Shop Cash Rewards. It's just this flywheel where more customers, more merchants, it gets better. So that's my third rant of this podcast. But basically taking a vertical approach to growth. And actually Shopify just reorganized their sales team to be vertical focused, which I think makes way more sense than just bucketing everybody into GMV bands, because you've got industries that are they're nascent when it comes to online revenue, but they're huge. And so how do you think about tackling a business that does $500 million in sales through retail, but does like $2 online? You're not going to treat them the same way that you would a $500,000 e-com only merchant. So verticalized approach to growth, partnerships, everything, like that's the playbook, I think. And that's what we're trying to do with alcohol, but that's also what we're seeing in jewelry and other industries where they're just a little bit behind the curve of modern tech adoption.
Yeah, no, I'm fully with you. And I'm hearing this over and over again from agencies all over the place, right? The B2B side, the legacy. I think I have one partner that calls it like the kind of like the ugly products, ugly, dirty products, like truck parts and I have a background in car parts. We won't go into that, but yeah, I hear you. It's a huge opportunity, and like you get the value of so much like depth when you are vertically aligned, so that you can come in with people who just like see the world in a different way, and you like specialize. It's so helpful. So yeah, no, I completely agree with you on that. So yeah, that's a killer thing for you to say, and I'm glad that I'm continuing to see more movement on our side towards like how do we think about that, right?
The B2B one is funny to me because we're migrating over a large B2B like Delta 8 and CBD business right now, and it's actually a really nice sort of secondary vertical for us to take on, because alcohol is obviously heavily regulated, but so is CBD and Delta 8 and so on. And the interesting thing for me when working with them is that there's so much value in our experience with D2C and more like traditional e-com, because their like bar for success is so low. It's pretty much just like make our site kind of like how you would expect a normal e-com site to be, because B2B websites like historically have just been awful, like a mail order catalog. And so it's just very low hanging fruit. Like, why not just take the same experience that you have on a regular Shopify website, and now you can get the same for B2B businesses? It's like, yeah, duh, no brainer. So
yeah, no, that's huge. That's huge. Awesome. You got anything else you want to discuss with me?
That's it. We will have to circle back when some of these new Rebuy products come out. Maybe I'll get Cameron on here. He's far smarter than anybody I know, including myself. So.
Oh yeah, let's get him on here. That'd be awesome.
I told him I'm gonna start sending him all my like angel investment deals, and like he can analyze them through the lens of somebody with a much larger brain than me, who knows what's going on in the world of AI.
Yeah, you just gotta have your friends. You gotta have your friends that are much smarter than you around. That's for sure. I've learned that over time. But yeah, it's been good to chat today, and I'll send you that list. Okay.
Awesome. Well, before we hop off, can you let everybody know who's listening where they can find you on the internet?
Yeah. So like I said, I'm with Rebuy. So you can just find us at rebuyengine.com. And if you come on there and you request a demo, say you heard about us on this podcast, and I'll make sure you get a better deal. They'll get frustrated with me saying that, though.
A brand special, 100% off for your first year. You heard it here first.
Okay, I didn't say that. That's you. I'm sending the invoice your way. How about that?
Give you the wrong address. Well, thank you so much for coming on. For everybody listening, as always, this is Brandon Amoroso. You can find me at brandonamoroso.com or electricmarketing.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.